Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Afro Sushi from Afro Sushi Reviews and Rankings, and this is my first video that I am, doing on YouTube, so bear with me, but I will try my best to essentially just talk out of my mind. Today, I essentially want to rant about, or talk about, the, what is it called? The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, which is a long ass title, by the way, so I'm really not going to give it the honor of, calling it by that name for the rest of this video. So I'm just going to make it easier, I'm just going to call it Ice Age Buck Wild. Ice Age Buck Wild is essentially the 6th entry. Yes, we have 6 Ice Age movies from this point on, and instead of following your usual main characters like Manny, Sid, Diego, Ellie, and even Scrat, we essentially follow the twin apostles Crash and Eddie, who essentially have caused an avalanche and whatnot, and they messed everything up for Manny and Ellie and whatnot, and all they gotta do in order to learn independence is go out to the Lost Island or whatever it is. It's basically the setting that you have seen from the 3rd Ice Age movie. And they encounter Buck Wild, voiced by Simon Pegg, by the way. Oh, and I will get to that soon. So basically, they go on this adventure with Buck Wild, and, crazy shenanigans happen. Honestly, I really am not that inclined to give you a much detailed plot, since there really isn't much to talk about other than how much I despise this animated movie with a passion. Now, before I talk about my negatives with the movie and how Disney really butchered Ice Age, so badly that it just baffles my mind at how they did it anyways. I do want to share some positives with the movie, or maybe 1 or 2. My number 1 positive that I will say is that I do like the character of Buck Wild. So he's essentially the main star of his own movie. The title isn't lying when it says that, we're following him and his adventures and what he does back in the Lost Dinosaur world from the 3rd Ice Age movie, and compared to him from Collision Course, which I really did not like him in that movie, at least his character is mostly intact in this installment, pretty much. And Simon Pegg does do a really good job of voicing him. I do think that whenever I see Buck Wild on the screen, he is essentially Buck Wild, and it's not like he lost his character on the TV screen, because I really like this character, and really I think that's the only good thing I can say about Ice Age Buck Wild. Okay, okay, now moving on to the negatives, and I really just want to rant about this portion of it real quick, that I am so baffled that once Disney acquired Fox, Blue Sky was working for Fox, and essentially shut down the studio and laid off 400, yes, 400 animators working in that studio, and only for them to hog the license of Ice Age, post that shit on social media. Whenever you scroll things down, you'll see that, they're building up some sort of hype for audiences to go see it and whatnot, and in return for all that, they give us this of an animated movie. This is how they decided to follow up the events of the previous 5 movies. And no, it's not a reboot somehow, because in the beginning of the movie, they do, in the form of cave paintings, cave drawings, they do show that they went through all 5 of the adventures, and I do have one huge problem that I want to get to soon, and say that, yeah, it's a part of the franchise, but really, I really do not feel like acknowledging that this is, a legit sequel or follow-up to the Ice Age franchise. And I'm not kidding you when I say that this movie seriously makes Collision Course, of all things, look like an amazing masterpiece. I'm someone who said before that that movie was just the absolute worst that I have seen, with the only redeeming qualities being that scratch moments were like the only funny bits, even though they're just so stupid and ridiculous. But hey, at least it gave me a good form of entertainment nonetheless. But until this movie came, Buck Wild just essentially dethroned its ass, because you give us this in return. You literally spit on our faces and literally slapped us in the cheek by giving us this movie. So with that mini rant out of the way, my huge laundry list of negatives that I can give you is that, for one, I hate the animation quality in this movie.
Not impressed.
Now, I understand that this is a made-for-streaming animated movie and that you're not gonna get the animation quality similar to a feature-length film, but keep in mind, this is Disney we're talking about. You know, a company that has generated over $2 billion in 2021 alone. You would think that a billion-dollar corporation that again shut down Blue Sky would provide you with the same level of animation quality that Blue Sky did for the last 5 movies, but for whatever reason, it looks so cheap, tacky, very incomplete. Like, everyone looks like rubber plastic, and God, it looks borderline cancerous to watch. The movie just, oh my God, I'm sorry, oh God. I remember pausing several times throughout the movie because of how the animation just looks so unwatchable, especially coming from companies like Disney. And how is it that something like Ice Age The Meltdown, which, keep in mind, came out in 2006. 2006. The Meltdown has a much better animation than this piece of crap 2021 direct-to-streaming movie that just looks so cheap and was made for TV. Oh, speaking of which, did you know, back in the 90s, Disney essentially did the same sort of thing with something like Belle's Magical World, or as I like to call it, Belle's Dog Shit World, because that movie's just crap, where they essentially just took 3 rejected pilot episodes, then reworked it as a movie, and then just sold it to the consumers, expecting them to pay it and then watch it, and then Disney was all like, yeah, this is an actual follow-up to the other 2 Beauty and the Beast movies. Like, literally, Ice Age Buck Wild is the modern-day Belle's Magical World. It was originally supposed to be an animated TV series, but for whatever reason, repackaged it into a movie and just shut that out on Disney Plus. And what, you think us consumers, casual audiences, even Ice Age fans or Blue Sky fans wouldn't notice the actual difference in the animation quality? Like, how stupid do you think we are? Now, aside from the animation, another thing that I do want to rant about as well is just the voice acting. Now, Simon Pegg is the only voice actor who returned to voice Buck Wild. But for whatever reason, Ray Romano, Queen Latifah, Dennis Leary, John Leguizamo, those voice actors never came back and reprised their roles, and instead you have these like list of D team, F team voice actors to come in and then voice these characters, and you will immediately notice that you're not even a minute in and Ellie narrates, you'll quickly realize that's not Queen Latifah at all. It's not her. It's some other voice doing that shit. And I'm like, what is this? And then further into the movie, none of the other characters, especially Sid, sound even close to how the old voice actors portray the characters. You know, they gave them some life. in the previous 5 Ice Age movies, this one is just like, it's so uncanny, but also just, you want to mute the movie because of how horrendous they sound. They're like nails on the chalkboard, especially Sid. I don't want to trash the voice actors because I know that they're doing their job, but I'm sorry. Whoever voiced Sid did a really bad John Leguizamo impersonation of Sid. Like, he sounds more feminine. It's like if they hired like some random 12-year-old kid to voice Sid because he sounded like funny when he sounded like Sid when he's, you know, imitating voices with friends, but it just didn't work for me. And Disney, you really couldn't have spent like, what, $5 more to afford those old voice actors? You really couldn't do that? Seriously, you really couldn't do that. You making $2 billion revenue in 2021 alone, you couldn't afford to spend more resources on these old voice actors that gave these characters to life. And speaking of characters, for whatever reason, Scrat, the face of Ice Age, is just not in this movie at all. What? As I was watching the movie, I was expecting him to maybe at least make a cameo of some sort. Maybe, you know, appear for like even 5 seconds towards the end of the movie, but nope. He's not in there for whatever reason. And I'm like, why though? Like, you know, you might as well just make a Justice League movie and not include Batman and Superman, because fuck them. You know, they're not important main characters to the story. Or you know what? You want a season 3 of Demon Slayer? Screw Tanjiro and Nezuko. Because they're not important. They're not the faces of Demon Slayer. You know what? You want The Simpsons without Homer Simpson? You know what? You get that too. It's like... Oh my god. I'm just so... The more I think about it, the more pissed off I am. The more I'm just so angry that I just want to keep tearing this movie apart. And not just Scrat. For whatever reason, going back to the topic about a character or something like that that I mentioned from the cave painting scene in the beginning of the movie, for whatever dumb reason, they don't mention Peaches, the daughter of Manny and Ellie, like, at all. You don't see any drawings of her. You don't even hear her being mentioned anywhere. Like, the movie just ignores her for whatever fucking reason. Okay, look. I know that there were other side characters like Julia, that one cliche boyfriend that Peaches dates, or Sid's grandma. And look, I can forgive Buck Wild if they just decide not to mention those other 2 characters, because, let's face it, I really do not like them as characters. They are just annoying as shit, in my opinion. I really don't care for them. But why would you leave Peaches out of this? Why? Why would you just not mention her at all? Again, this is another thing where it pisses me off that someone like me wouldn't notice those stupid, needless plot holes in this movie, because, I don't know, it's a kid's movie, screw you. Like, look, Ice Age, I'm not saying you have to be Lord of the Rings to give us like a world-building, expanding, MCU levels storytelling in your movie, your Ice Age, for crying out loud. But if you can't even get the bare bones basics right, such as Peaches, you know, actually being the main daughter of Manny and Ellie, not even mentioning her, not even getting Scrat of all characters in your movie, like, if you can't even fulfill the basics like that in your 6th Ice Age movie, then that's when you know you're just the absolute worst of the franchise. Again, I'm not exaggerating when I say Collision Course is a much better movie than whatever this turd is. And if I have to mention any other problems that I have with the movie, I mean, there's this one Triceratops character, Orson, Randy. I almost thought he was called Randy for whatever reason, but I really do not give a shit about him. I don't care. He's just a stupid, generic villain who wants to take over the world because reasons. I really don't care. And then they introduce this new character, Z, which the movie tries to explain that she's some sort of an obscure mammal, even though to me she looks like an otter. But you know what? I really don't care. I'm just gonna say that she's an otter. I don't really give two shits about her either. She just really didn't do anything for me other than she's just there, and that's it, really. If I could be honest with anything else, like, really altogether, I was just super bored with this movie and just trying to get through it, because seriously, those 82 minutes or however many long that movie lasted just felt like an eternity. Like, I literally just did not care about what was going on, so you really are not missing out on that much. Honestly, I really have nothing else to say other than, what the hell, Disney? Like, seriously? Again, you shut down Blue Sky, you market the film, you just literally give us this in return. Like, the sheer arrogance coming from them thinking that they could do a much better Ice Age than Blue Sky can. It's like, it just epitomizes everything wrong with monopoly capitalism when you essentially destroy friendly competition. I mean, there's a reason why we need that friendly competition, why other studios need to make animated movies. That's why other companies such as DreamWorks are important to the animation industry, so that way they could show us that, hey, Disney's not only capable of making animated stuff, but you know, from all across the globe, animation is in need of variety, but for Disney to essentially just, you know, do this to Blue Sky and then tarnish Ice Age, yeah. I don't know what's a movie that'll be worse. God help me. If there's a much worse movie than Ice Age Buck Wild, I don't know what to say. I will be utterly speechless. I got nothing else to say other than I just really despise this movie, this mediocre trash of a movie. It's the worst movie I've seen in January by far. So with that said, I'm gonna have to give it my rating of an orange seal of awfulness. Now, to be perfectly honest, it's not the worst anime movie I've ever seen, but it's just terrible regardless. It's not saying much, so yeah. And that's it for the video. Thank you so much, guys, and hopefully you enjoyed that little rant, and definitely stay tuned, and hopefully I'll make more videos like this soon. So in other words, have a good cartoony day.